Hi, my name is Hilary Davis.
And I'm Darren Fisher.
And with Ivana Randajovic, we're from Swinburne University of Technology in Melbourne, Australia. Our presentation is about a co-designed, comic-based digital story from Down Under, that is, from rural Australia.
The digital story was digitised to authentically represent a rural mental health issue and service response.
Digital stories are a process whereby ordinary people create narratives using a participatory design approach. They use creative artifacts, so things such as photos, images, signs, and music, to co-create 3 to 5 minute audio-visual formats. They're useful for giving voice to marginalised and vulnerable community members, such as those in rural communities. Digital stories are really powerful artifacts with the potential to shape personal and community development and narratives. This project took place in the Wimmera, which is 5 hours' drive northwest from Melbourne, the capital city of Victoria, Australia. Australian rural communities are typically overlooked by mainstream media, yet mental health incidence is high. For example, the suicide rate is 50% higher than in capital cities. Digital literacy is also low, and social isolation is commonplace. Australian rural communities are impacted by climate change issues such as bushfire and drought. In human-computer interaction, there are few digital stories about rural mental health issues, and we have found none that specifically address comic-based digital storytelling approach for rural mental health. The Rural Outreach Program is the context for this digital story. This is a free program where rural outreach workers, or ROW, visit community members in their homes or on their farms and refer them to support services. Men use the program more than women. This is why men are both the subject and the audience for the digital story.
Comics reminiscent of childhood are appealing and easy to understand, potentially making them more engaging than text-heavy information sources. The use of colours, symbols, and design of images help ensure that the document's key messages are understood, reinforcing text and facilitating comprehension via people's visual literacy. From a co-design point of view, the visual iteration of design and the digital story drafts ensured that all stakeholders were able to quickly engage in the review process. Changes could be made to characters and backgrounds in a way that would be not possible with recording video footage, for example.
The co-design process. There were 4 primary elements to this project. Our digital story consists of a co-creation of a case study about Sam, a young man experiencing mental health issues, co-design of illustration and text, digitising and adding music, and then dissemination and future work in terms of the project. Co-design elements. We use co-design elements to co-create the digital story. First, we conducted a telephone interview with a rural outreach worker about a young man experiencing conflict at home. That is, Sam, top right here. Then we generated a written or case study. Then we co-designed the digital story in 2 face-to-face and 2 online workshops, with the rural outreach worker depicted at the top left and the local policeman depicted below, as well as local health service employees. We refined the story at each stage with each of the participants. Note that Sam is a pseudonym for a local community member, and he chose not to be engaged in terms of telling his own story.
So this digital story focused on creating a sense of authenticity, particularly in terms of environment, metaphor, and character. This gave weight to the health promotion message. We sought to acknowledge and respect rural readers and to understand their environment, their culture, language, and their practices. In this presentation, we only speak about the elements that have an asterisk beside them. However, a fuller account can be found in the digital story and paper. An authentic representation of the local environment was important. Readers should recognize their landscape in order to better connect to the health promotion message. The arid color palette and flatness of the bush landscape were emphasized in panel 1. In panel 2, a landline telephone cord was used to emphasize rural connectivity. Landlines are heavily relied on as internet connectivity can be poor. Further, the interior of the police station was completely redrawn based on feedback from our co-design partners, from our cliched, bustling police station of the movies to a small one-person operation of reality. However, authenticity had to be managed carefully. The initial drawing of the township was redrawn as our co-design partners were concerned the township, and therefore Sam, the young man, might be identifiable in the small, close-knit community.
We sought to maintain a sense of authenticity in terms of the character depiction and the terminology that they use. So the title of the paper, I Understand Mate, reflects Australian cultural images of mateship. That is, loyalty, companionship and friendship, particularly amongst men. The rural outreach worker was drawn to reflect a trusted local footy coach, and the terminology used reflects local dialects. For instance, we use donuts instead of burnouts, and we refer to Sam's vehicle as a ute. The vernacular put him into the system is commonly used in Australian rural policing rather than book him. So this refining of language helped to create a sense of authenticity of character as well. For instance, we can see here that the rural outreach worker recognised himself in the images. Sam had a long monologue that was dramatically shortened to be more in keeping with his character, and the location of the interaction, the symbols and the colours were implemented to communicate Sam's character in an authentic way.
So comics as a medium works across a variety of platforms, not only the traditional printed booklets, but also mobile devices, the web, social media, and as video. The fragmented, sequential nature of comics means that stories can be rearranged in any number of ways. They can be viewed in sequence or as a grid, for example. Panels can be edited in isolation, or new panels can be added in order to clarify information or to help guide the reader. We chose a square aspect ratio in order to give us flexibility in how and where this digital story could be published.
Adobe Premiere Pro software was used to edit the story. Background music was chosen to complement the timing and the tempo of the story. Panel movements were 10 seconds, including fades between the panels, to allow time for the audience to absorb the story. The digital story can be played on smartphones, tablets, PCs, and shared via social media. You can see the story here below, and we'll attach a link to the end of this presentation. Conclusions and next steps. We'd like to work with rural mental health promotion agencies to co-design and co-produce authentic rural mental health messages that resonate and help to support local rural community members. In addition, we want to evaluate comic-based digital stories as a rural mental health promotion mechanism to better understand how they might resonate with and attract local community members to various mental health services. Finally, we're very keen to evaluate and refine the comic-based digital storytelling process. We think that it has a lot of promise in this space. Thanks everybody for listening to our presentation. For further reading, please check out our paper and the digital story online.
Thanks a lot.